Here's a loose ball. It's a fumble.
Ball is loose. As there's a fight for it still. And he lunges the ball to 13-yard line.
Mark Sanchez not expecting it, and it was the backside of Brandon Moore that knocked the ball out.
Welcome to the Don't Fumble podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Andrews Groves, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Mak and Alex Pang. This is our recap of the Week 2 of the NFL, also known as the NFL Battle Royale, with all the injuries going out. What do you think of the action, guys?
It's good games. What was there not to like when Packers are winning both divisional games and scoring the most both weeks?
There were some really good games. Alex, what do you think of the Sunday night game? I know the Patriots didn't pull out the win, but it was really another
good
classic.
Game. Really good game. I mean, there was some really good games this weekend, so I can't wait to get into it. So
no, absolutely,
let's go.
Absolutely, man. I mean, the other obviously thing is what we're going to talk about is obviously the injuries. It was just another. It was like this game is. You could tell this game is a very physical game. Let's just say that, and they were dropping like flies this weekend. It was just not. It was not good to see. It's like constantly people on the ground getting carted off. It was just like, wow. And you hear all these reports from other games coming in. This person's got injured. This person's got injured. It was just. We'll go through that in a little bit. But on today's show, we'll be going through the games, picking our favorite moments with our segment 3 and out. We will be later on. We'll be looking forward to the Week 3 games and the best games from that week. But first, we're going to do some news. Okay, so the news for this week is dominated, obviously, by the injuries. We've had some big injuries, significant ones to some really prominent players. I think we're looking at the headline one is Saquon Barkley with the ACL, but we've also got Joey Bosa, defensive end for the 49ers, and Solomon Thomas, defensive tackle, 49ers, both out ACL. Cortland Sutton, ACL. We've got Bruce Irvin and Marquise Blair, two defensive players for the Seahawks, also out with ACL, and Tavon Young, the corner for the Ravens, out with ACL. Then you've got Malik Hooker, Achilles injury. He's out for the season. Yeah, Anthony Barr, torn pec, and then Paris Campbell, torn PCL. Probably looking at a very low chance of returning this season. And then even people like Christian McCaffrey got an injury. He'd be out 4 to 6 weeks. Jimmy G got injured with ankle injury, out for a couple of weeks, and Drew Lock also out with a rotator cuff strain, out for a couple of weeks. And that's just there was plenty of other injuries going on. It was just a really difficult week. What kind of things, what we're looking at in terms of the more significant injuries for this week?
I would say the Seahawks.
You think Seahawks?
I think the Seahawks injuries, because the 49ers have a lot of injuries as well, but I think the Seahawks, they had loads of injuries during that game. So I think going forward for a contending team like the Seahawks, I think it might hurt them down the line.
I think going forward, this injury so far for this week, the beneficiaries are Cardinals
and the Rams.
Yeah,
I think more Cardinals.
I mean, you look at the 49ers as well. I mean, they were just within a couple of minutes of each other. You had Joey Bosa go out, and he's basically still being carted off to the.
That's their pass rush gone, ain't it?
Yeah, Joe Bosa's. You already have issues with D Ford can't stay healthy, right? And then he's the other guy, but he's talented but can't stay healthy. Then Joe Bosa, it was very obvious from the video. He got turned on a block, his leg was planted, knee turned. You see it instantly. He's off.
It's horrible seeing.
And then he's off. He's off. He not even reached the locker room, and then Solomon Thomas is on the ground on the very next play, and he's out in the very next play. Two ACL injuries, back-to-back plays, same team, defensive line. That strength has now become a weakness, on paper. Obviously.
Well, they just signed Ezekiel Ansah for a 1-year deal.
Okay.
The Lions one.
Yeah, they need some.
Anyway.
I mean, again, his injuries. He has injury issues himself, but if he can get back to someone, he has some talent there. But it's just got to find. You got to find who. You've got people reaching out to these people who are sitting on the sidelines. You got Devonta Freeman. Has he signed with the Giants, or is he visiting the Giants after the Saquon injury?
Visiting at the moment.
I mean, you're talking about. It's like this is what they were sitting there for. Like they go, all right, we'll see. And Saquon, that changes for the Giants. That just changes everything on offense of what they can do in terms of, the way you can actually, you don't have to worry about the running back position. You can kind of like, you don't have to load up the box as much now. You can kind of, it's going to be a bit harder on Daniel Jones.
But the thing is, right, it'll impact more on fantasy for the fans. But as an overall picture, I don't think it will have that much of an impact.
Well, no, I mean, I think in terms of on a game-to-game basis...
It'll be different on the gameplay.
I think the Giants become...
the way they drop the plays, but overall, I don't think
I think that the Giants weren't going to win that many games either. I think both New York teams absolutely stink, and they're probably racing for the first overall pick. But I think that the Giants were more competitive, even though they may not win a lot of games because the defense is still kind of struggling, and they're trying to retool that defense. I think that they're going to be less. I think without Saquon, they're not going to be able to kind of put up as many points or be as competitive in certain games, and so I think it just makes their games less competitive, and they'll maybe miss out on a couple of wins that they could sneak.
We're going to lean on completely on Daniel Jones, isn't it?
Yeah, this is going to give. It's going to put him in the seat now where he's got to show what he can do without Saquon there. But it's going to be difficult. But yeah, I mean, you're looking at
Dion Lewis at the moment. But then if they sign Freeman, I think Lewis and Freeman are very similar players. So.
Yeah, I don't see. I mean, Freeman didn't do much with the Falcons, a team that he was very familiar with and been there for years, and he didn't look very good last year. I mean, I'm not saying he can't.
The Falcons didn't look good at all anyway.
Yeah, but I think he was, when you look at his actual, like, sometimes you can see a player still has it, but they're just struggling in a system or on a team, but he didn't look great, like on film. When you look at the eyeball test, as they say, he didn't look great. So we'll see what the Giants have to do to kind of make up with this. I know they've got Wayne Goldman. They may bring him and he may be the guy instead of Freeman. So, but we'll see about that. Obviously, I think the Joe Bosa one is probably the biggest one from a kind of win-loss, because it just makes a big difference to that defense. You go up against it and you're like, oh, we don't have to face Bosa now. Obviously, with Richard Sherman still out for a little while. And obviously Solomon Thomas is a big blow as well. So I think it's just Go on,
49ers got Giants next week, so we'll see how.
I think they'll be fine. Facing you got all these injuries, and you go into every game with a quarter of your talent. You still beat the New York teams. The New York teams are just absolute trash. But I
think they're both relieved to be playing each other.
Was that the
Giants and 49ers?
I don't know.
Do you think they're both relieved to be playing each other next week?
Yeah, the kind of that's the ACL bowl, isn't it? It's like it's just.
Yeah, but then, do you guys think the injuries so far have been an issue because of no proper preseason training and also no preseason games? Like preseason games, the starters wouldn't have played that much anyway, but it will be the practice.
I don't think so. I personally don't think so. I just think with ACL injuries, it's literally a stroke of luck.
7 there. 7. That's just so.
It is a massive number.
Look.
We'll see next. We'll see like another 2-3 weeks if it goes on.
It's a very physical game, and these things do happen a lot.
Well, but then it's because you don't have the practice to build up your physical. You're jumping right into the game. Yeah, but such a physical game.
It's just one of those things. I think what happened was in week 2, a lot of players started getting into, like, they felt the hits last week and they've gotten used to hitting, like, in actual games. And then I think this week everything was just a lot more physical because everyone's used to being hit and hitting again. So I just think that's what happened. Like, it just got, like, everything was just a lot more physical.
You might be right there.
The second week.
I guess we're going to see, because, like, we did mention last week actually. It wasn't so bad. Like the first week,
there was no injuries.
And then it was.
There were some, but not.
But it wasn't
as bad as this week. And
I
personally just think it's just. I just think the players were like, okay, like,
get back into it, and
got back into it.
There was a little bit.
Getting the bruises are fine now. Let's go back in. Let's go into being physical again.
I think we'll see. Like Henry said, we'll see over the next 2 or 3 weeks. We'll see the trend, whether it was a one-off week outlier, or whether it's going to be, literally going to be like last man standing. Like who can put who's going to be the last team with like a decent 11 on offense or defense. It's like, it's just going to be a bunch of people off the streets by December. Or hopefully not. Hopefully it's just an outlier and we can kind of enjoy the games without, and these guys can stay healthy. But I think.
What about the news on Jerry Jeudy? Is he okay?
I don't think there's anything. What's the news on Jerry Jeudy? I didn't see the.
I know because
I was seeing Cortland Sutton. Obviously, Cortland Sutton got the injury.
Sutton. But didn't Jerry? I think Jerry Jeudy got a little bit banged up as well during the game, didn't he?
I didn't see anything coming out of it from a long-term point of view.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think
that's a relief for Broncos.
Yeah, he returned to the game, so I don't think it's an issue. Maybe it was something to keep out on the injury report going forward.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the other news this week, and obviously considering with the Seahawks being out with two guys, Bruce Irvin and Marquise Blair being injured with the ACL, they're fortunate to keep Quandre Diggs, who avoids suspension after his hit on N'Keal Harry in that game on Sunday night.
I'm surprised.
So
you can't hit like that.
I think maybe the league were giving them a bit of a kind of help,
well,
saying,
the league has already fined them, right? The league's fined Seahawks, Denver, and 49ers. I'm assuming Raiders and Saints will get fined for the coaches not wearing.
Oh yeah,
face
that was
masks.
the other news. Yeah, it was $100,000 fine for the coaches. And 250 for the teams, so they're taking it very seriously in terms of.
That's $1 million there last week.
I think it's something that they should be taking serious.
I think it's also an optics thing, right? The country, like, is the whole thing about masks and stuff, that they want to see that people aren't being kind of, that they're taking it seriously, and that even you go, oh well, they're in a bubble and they're all being tested, and it's just one of those things where it's an optics thing. I think they want to make sure that everyone's is taking, like, where they can wear a mask, they wear a mask, But I think for the news, that wraps it up, and we'll kick it off to our segment 3 and Out. Okay, for 3 and Out this week, we're going to be covering the games, looking at the surprising teams, the disappointing teams, and our teams of the week. So we'll kick it off with the surprising teams of the week. And Alex, what's your surprising team of the week?
So I'm going to kick things off with the LA Chargers. I think they surprised all of us this week, to be fair. They surprised us by starting Justin Herbert too. I mean, Tyrod Taylor got injured, and I think I've always said he's not a QB1. So, and we saw what the LA Chargers can be when they started Justin Herbert, and for them to keep it competitive against the Chiefs, I think that's a big achievement already in itself. But
they should have beaten them, to be honest.
They should have beaten them as well. That's another thing. Time of possession, they did quite well. 39 and a half minutes to Kansas City's 28 minutes. So
yeah,
they played really well.
The problem is, against Kansas City, the time of possession doesn't matter as much. It doesn't. But I think the Lynn's decision to not go for it on 4th and 1. In overtime,
we were watching that game, weren't we? We're talking about it. And it was that turnover, wasn't it?
Big shout out to the Chargers defense as well.
Yeah, they did good, but I just think that you can look at the decision.
City was 7 for 15 on 3rd down conversions.
Yeah, they had a really good game, and he trusted the defense. That defense that had done so well to stop them, but trusting your unit against that KC offense is going to be risky, and but you can respect it because of how well they did. You can respect the decision to go for it.
Yeah, I mean, Justin Herbert looked great. Like
he
did make like the odd rookie mistake, like his interception. He's got to learn. You can't ever do that.
Well, it's his first game, isn't it?
So, I think you learn those things. Those things you can you don't worry about too much, because when you look that good
on an NFL forward,
you learn those things, right? Like you learn what you can. You learn what you can and you can't get away with. And as long as those things get ironed out by the end of the rookie year, but you keep all those positive things that he showed, then that's a really good. I mean, again, it's kind of one of those things where he's almost got a rep a bit like Josh Allen coming in, where like the guy's got a lot of ability, but you question some of the decision making, and but I think that
he had a really clean game up until that point, and then that turnover, that interception really did swing.
That changed the game. That swing towards KC.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a whole other host of reasons why the Chargers did not end up winning it, but that's one of the main reasons. I mean, like there was a 3rd and 7 that they should have blitzed. They should have blitzed Mahomes. I think I was telling you guys.
You were saying it. We were watching it. Yeah,
yeah. Because he was struggling against their defense. Because I think it was like in their last possession as well before they went into overtime.
Yeah, they had a chance to stop them. Yeah,
they should have blitzed them there.
No, it was a really it was a good game, and like I said, the Chargers always play them tough, and they almost come up with a victory. But when you make those decisions to not go for it, you know it can come back to bite you. And against the Chiefs, it happens more often than not. So sometimes but you saw like in what we'll talk about later on with the Ravens game and then the Texans. You saw teams sometimes get ahead of themselves against these top teams where they start going for it, and with Bill O'Brien going with that early 4th down. Sometimes you get in your mindset, and so Anthony Lynn did it's you can respect the decision, but it's kind of you always set yourself up potentially for a failure if you don't stop
I think what's most surprising is he's still saying that Tyrod Taylor will be the starter when he's healthy.
I think it's just out of respect thing. I think maybe they think Tyrod might miss another game, which gives Herbert another chance to show what he can do, and then
keep the hype down.
They really started Justin Herbert. He looked good. Again.
I think the fan base, you want the fan base to get behind a player, and there's nothing more exciting than like you can, as a fan base, you can accept a rookie's mistakes and stuff. If there's excitement there, I think you're happy for the mistakes to happen in year 1 and get them out. So he looked really promising. But Henry, what was your surprising team of the week?
Well, I'm going to go with the Bengals. That's so surprising how Joe Burrow actually just looked so good. He
looked really comfortable, didn't he?
Yeah, looks so comfortable in the pocket. He set a rookie record in passing, 37 out of 61 for 316 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Well, he had that fumble, which I think he'll learn from feeling the pressure, but he looked good, and like it's often a collapsing pocket. He got out and just escaped using his legs, and his progression was good in that. It was such a good game to watch for Thursday night.
It was a really good game. It was a really, really good game. It was between two teams. I mean, the Browns obviously won the game, and they look really like they played it. They showed some good quality that we hoped to have seen coming into this year.
After that poor start in Ravens, they had to play well.
I think Baker Mayfield didn't. I think he was like he didn't have. He completed all his passes in the first half, didn't he, or something like that?
Yeah, I didn't see the stat on it, but he looked really.
Because I think it was ridiculous at one point.
He looked really comfortable. Obviously, he had the link with Odell. The running backs, they have the best running backfield, I think, in the league in terms of that 1-2 punch with Chubb and Hunt. I think it's just they've got so much quality like that. If one of them went out, the other one they'll be able to be the workhorse. It's just they have so much talent, and I think they're making up for that. They should be showing what they can. You've got to show all that talent there. You've got to show what you're about, really, because you can't keep on having all this talent and then being less than the sum of your parts. That's just not acceptable, and that's what happened with the coaching. That's up to coaching. So it's good that they showed after a kind of disappointing week 1, they showed up and did well. But the Bengals, again, go back to the Bengals. I think that Burrow looked really good, and they're really promising. It's just that there's kind of a culture change for them to have that guy who looks so comfortable so early on. He's going to have his mistakes, but
I think that what's most interesting for the Bengals is that he doesn't like losing. It's that attitude, it's that mentality. That's something they haven't had.
No, and hopefully
he wants that winning mentality, and it's just so important.
You need to ride that as a franchise, right? You need to ride the kind of confidence of a rookie because you can you can push that down a bit. Like that confidence can go down year on year if the franchise doesn't support him and make the right moves. But so far they look like an interesting team. Even if they don't win a lot of games, they should be fun to watch at the very least. And I think that's a surprise going for most Bengals. I mean, Bengals Browns was always one of those games where you're like, all right, these two are higher teams. Coming from the the home of football, and it's for a long
battle for Ohio, right?
Yeah, exactly, and it's never been very good for a long time. And finally, there was a really, really good game, and it was bringing back the old school rivalry that was there, and we can all any teams that are terrible that become good, it makes the NFL overall better, you know. But so with my surprising team is it's not so much surprising with the result, because I picked the Bills as a surprising team. Obviously, them winning against the Dolphins, it wasn't comfortable. But what I want to see, what I'm surprising with Bills is they're changing the mentality that I see of them, of a team that I think it's just with Josh Allen playing so well. I feel that their ceiling, I think once they get the kind of defensive stuff sorted out, and I think they trust the defense and Sean McDermott to get the defense sorted out and kind of put away teams, they need to be a bit more ruthless. But offensively, they look really good, and Josh Allen leading that team, he just looks like a really, really top player now. And that's, for me saying that, I didn't have, when they picked him seventh overall after picking, you know, and the Jets picked Darnold and the Browns picked Mayfield, I thought, all right, yeah, right, you know, you pick the guy with a high ceiling, but he's also not, he's raw.
He's got an arm.
Well, he always had the ability, but he was raw, and you're thinking, okay, and normally you see these guys, they don't really work out, because the team picking in the top 10, picking a guy with attributes, but not being more of a complete player, doesn't normally work out. But they've done an incredible job of working with him to improve his game, to work at what he's good at, and maybe limit what he's not as good at. But also,
did you know? It's a stats for you, Ed. He's the first ever Bills quarterback, or Buffalo Bills quarterback, to have a 400-yard passing and 4 touchdown, no interception.
Yeah, it was incredible, and to see the player.
Jim Kelly didn't get that.
No,
well, I mean,
yeah.
But is he in a talk for MVP?
I mean, he if he continues this way, he'll be in the discussion. But I just think people like Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers.
No, in the talk. No, I'm saying in the talk. I'm not saying he will get them. Should he be in the talk if he carries on?
If he carries on this way, there's no reason why he shouldn't be. Yeah, he's just.
Personally, I don't think he'll carry on. Like, I think now he's gonna come up against the better teams now.
Exactly. We're talking about the Jets and the Dolphins, and I think there is a step up from the Dolphins from the Jets, as you can see. I think the Dolphins are improved from last year, but again, they're not one of the stronger teams. I think as we've talked about before, the AFC East kind of out of conference schedule is really difficult with the NFC West, and also they also play the AFC West as well. So there's some really difficult matchups for him coming up, and I think that's where we're going to see, like, if he can hold it up against the better teams in the league, then we'll be able to maybe say that he's legit. But for now, he looks. It's not just, I know the teams aren't great, but he looks like the throws that he's making with the touch that he had. So there was one that he threw on an out route to Stephon Diggs down the sideline. That was a beautiful touch throw, which he wasn't able to do that before, and he's been trained. And it's just, that shows the coaching. The GM has done a great job putting players around him. It's an amazing team work to kind of get a player who's that raw to be more kind of refined and and be a kind of well-rounded, consistent player. And it's just credit to them. And I think for me, they are as good as New England looked. I think they're, for me, the favourites still in the AFC East, because I know you'll disagree, but I think that with the defence will be improved, and they will kind of lock things down a bit more. I know Patriots Bills is going to be a great game. That's what I was saying as well. But I think
got them twice, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
But I personally don't think the Bills can get any wins against the NFC West teams.
I guess it's something we'll have to see.
NFC West, I don't know. After all the injuries that we've been talking about, they've got a shot. If they stay healthy,
49ers maybe, but the way everyone else is playing. I mean, they've got
losing the two safety, right? Losing safety and Irwin and
the pass rusher, yeah. Bruce Irwin.
You're gonna. I think they might struggle. Like, you're gonna have to have Russell Wilson keep cooking everything.
He is cooking everything.
He is, but you're gonna rely every game for him to do that. What
about the Dolphins?
I think that with the Dolphins, they look
like they're improving.
Oh, absolutely, and obviously Fitzpatrick had a good game. And it's interesting when they will transition to seeing Tua, and when they make the decision, because if they're playing competitively, then when do they make the decision? Like if a team is out of it completely, or completely playing well, it's an easy decision one way or the other. But they're kind of in the middle of like, when do we turn it over and get a look at Tua? But overall, they're just rebuilding, but they're well coached. They've got some young players who are doing well. I think the defense is, I think they do. Overall, it's not a complete team, but I think they're improving and they're going in the right direction.
Is that more on Bills letting the Dolphins back in, that they can't kill off teams, or actually Dolphins?
I would respect the Dolphins. I would respect the Dolphins. I would say I would respect what the Dolphins did offensively, because the Bills maybe aren't as ruthless, but they are a good defense. They've got on all three levels that they're really good, and I think that even though they're making maybe some mistakes that are allowing teams back in, I think overall, if you're doing it against a defense that's that good, I think there is still some respect to be shown to that team, and I think it's a bit of both. But I would give respect to the Dolphins in terms of having a good game and being a good team. Like, this is what they showed last year. Like, they may have less talent on paper, but they just play well as a team. They're really well coached, and they play as a unit. They play really well within themselves. So I think trending in the right direction, but I think it's just a year in transition for the Dolphins. But with that, I think we'll move on to our disappointing teams this weekend. And Henry, what's your disappointing team of the week?
Well, we're gonna go with the Vikings. I mean, Kirk Cousins just stink.
They look really bad. I mean, people were discussing so whether they would tank for a Trevor or tank for a
they should with Kirk Cousins. It's so bad.
They're better than that, but I mean,
are they? On paper, probably, but then Bills are looking like they've got the much better deal out of the Diggs trade right now, and I think I'm sure the Bills fans have been like trolling the Viking fans.
Yeah, it's interesting when that trade went in, because everyone was killing the Bills for picking, saying, oh, you've got this great wide receiver class, and yet you give away your first round pick. Why would you take a guy
24th, isn't it?
Yeah, so like why exactly? Yeah. Why would you not take the rookie and have him on a rookie deal rather than having Diggs on a big deal? But when you start the season and you see what the Vikings don't have and what the Bills do have in a 28-year-old Diggs now, 27, 28, an established player in the NFL who's missing from one team and is added to the other, you see that, it was worth it for the Bills. And then the Vikings are definitely missing having that kind of those two options now. They really just
Jefferson should be decent,
I think,
but he's a rookie.
And that's the point, isn't it?
You can't replace him with Diggs.
And that's the point of like the rookie versus, even though you think of like, you think of finances and deals and all this, when you have to play people, you're replacing a guy who's been in the league for a number of years and proven it for a couple of years, versus a guy who hasn't. And even if he ends up being good, he's still a rookie and he's going to go through his rookie the hardships of the rookie season. So it's like, it's one of those things. I just think they're going to be rebuilding, and I think as they don't, we're going to have to keep an eye on them as a team that could be like stripping away things. I know that it's funny they traded. Well, yeah, because it's funny they traded for Ngakoue, but the thing is, Ngakoue is a young player who they could re-sign and still base, like the defense could still be built around him going forward. So it's not like, but they could still be looking to, okay, maybe we trade other assets as well, get away and kind of rebuild the whole thing.
I mean, their corners are young.
They just need to get healthy again. They just need to get some of their players healthy again. Because they don't have a pass rush at the moment.
They have no pass rush. They have, and
that's what's killing them at the moment, because they can't rely on their offense to generate points.
They can't rely on the offense last year that much.
Their offense can't.
Kirk Cousins.
The offense they just keep getting free and outs, and then they're putting so much pressure on the defense. Defense is depleted already at the moment.
That defense haven't got anything. Like they got no pass rushers. Their cornerbacks aren't great.
Yeah.
They're rookie cornerbacks, so you hope they will develop. That's what they want. But they had 12 first down against the Colts. Kirk Cousins threw 113 yards, 3 interceptions.
I think the Vikings will improve later on down down this season.
I think I don't think they are going to be a tanking team. I think they're well coached. I think they're going to probably be an 8-8 kind of sort of team. I think they'll be.
I don't know. At the moment, I think they'll probably.
Maybe
I'll predict that they'll have a losing record, but I don't think it'll be.
Well, I would say 8-8 is probably their ceiling from where they are currently. But I think that they're a team.
Do you think they'll make the playoff?
No,
not
the NFC.
Moment.
If you look at the NFC,
I think you guys both said they will make playoffs.
I think
season,
we were all. I think we didn't think it would be. I think we had trust of you go with reputation, right? The Vikings have been so solid for so many years. I know you would probably go against them because you're looking at it a bit more as a division rival of a team you root for, Henry. But we kind of looked at it as like, well, they've been so good for so many years. They're well coached. Generally, defense is solid. You just don't see it happening. But these things happen. You go into the season, you see what team actually is on a week-to-week basis, and they end up being different. And eventually, teams do fade away.
All right, let's talk on this. Like out of the, I think there was 11 teams that's 0-2, right? Historically, we're seeing 88% don't make the playoffs up with that record. Okay.
Yeah.
Out of the teams that are 0-2 now, who do you actually see will potentially make the playoff? I guess, maybe Texans because of the hard schedule. Because I personally, I don't think they would.
I don't necessarily think they will because I think there's some talent in the AFC that could probably prevent them. But they have the ability. It's hard to judge them completely because to say that they could get into the playoffs or and beat, they may not beat those teams. You don't always think that a team will get into the playoffs will be a team that could beat KC or Baltimore, and they haven't. So
I'm just saying make the playoff.
I'm just trying to think of the other 0-2 teams that have started. That
I'll tell you, we've got Dolphins,
Eagles,
Bengals, Eagles, Jets, Texans, Broncos, Giants, Vikings, Lions, Falcons, and Panthers.
I guess the Eagles could because the NFC East is a bit
horrible.
I mean, the Cowboys could end up
from the Cowboys.
Well, the Cowboys could end up being whatever you think they are. They could be the team we saw against the Rams, or they were lucky obviously to get that win. They had good performance, but the Falcons did throw it away, and we'll get to that in a bit. But I think the Eagles could be the other team that did. But it's just I think with that seventh seed, it's going to open up teams that are going to make it from the 0-2 start. But with that said, Alex, what's your disappointing team of the week?
My disappointing team comes from the Monday Night Football game. The New Orleans Saints. We all hyped them up, and the past two games, their offense has really let every fan down, any football fan down. Really, it's just I don't know how to explain it. It's inexcusable, really. How
they look really sloppy. They look really sloppy. Like especially, and it was
Breeze is not in sync.
I think obviously they're missing Michael Thomas, but at the same time,
that's a big miss.
I mean, Alvin Kamara looked like Alvin Kamara. He looked really good. But other than that, Breeze, and the defense.
It's hard to pinpoint what's going on wrong.
I just think that I think that they faced a team that did everything well on the night. And just
new stadium. We're going to talk about that stadium.
That stadium, it was a lovely. I mean, talking about the stadium, it was a great. Everyone talks about SoFi Stadium.
Doesn't look as nice as.
I personally think, obviously, I think they're both amazing, right? It's not to say, but I personally think I actually like the kind of ominous kind of look of the Allegiant Stadium more. I like that kind of the flame that they got, which is there's obviously a nod to the old Oakland flame. I just like I like the look of it. It's kind of very Raiders, it's very Raiders, very Vegas Raiders. It's kind of it kind of suits the team. I think SoFi is it's amazing, but it doesn't. I don't think it represents the team as much as that stadium represents the Raiders. I think it's like a very. I like it.
Raiders, they needed a new stadium anyway.
Absolutely, and they've got a new start, and they kicked off in a good way. But with going back to the Saints, it was just that Janoris Jenkins. It was so necessary for that pass into the one that wrapped up the game, the pass interference on that last
on
play.
Henry Riggs, right? Is it Henry Riggs?
I think it was
time of possession as well. 23 minutes to Raiders 36 minutes.
Yeah,
it's not good enough.
And I think the Raiders just played a really solid game.
Yeah, what's not good enough was Sanders got his first catch in 10 yards or whichever in the last minute of the game.
It's just not good enough.
Yeah.
I mean, like even the Raiders, 4th down conversions, they were 2 for 2, 10 for 17 on 3rd down. It's like it's just so weird seeing how badly like the Saints are executing there. It's just so weird.
I think we need to obviously. I know they didn't look amazing against the Bucks, but they did beat a Bucks team which is decent. So I think we need to just let's see what the Saints do next week and weeks going forward before we see especially when Michael Thomas. You take Michael Thomas out of any team and how much they've relied on him, it's going to make a difference. Especially with Breeze being at the end of his career, he can probably do a bit less himself, and so having someone like Michael Thomas does kind of help things a little bit. And so with him going out, he's kind of like what they call is that Jenga piece, as I know they refer to. They talk about pull out one piece and it over falls down. I mean, Michael Thomas could be that for the Saints offense, but I think overall they need to just play a bit more of a kind of disciplined game, and the Raiders did do that.
They look?
They look really good. Josh Jacobs looks great. Waller was untouchable. You couldn't stop the guy. He was just on every play. You're like 83. There was multiple times when it was only because like that one of that Malcolm Jenkins
the Saints lined up everyone and anyone on him, and
very often.
They didn't double team him until quite too late.
Yeah, but it's and it'll be interesting to see next week what obviously with the Raiders facing the Patriots what they do with if Bill Belichick sorts a way to kind of stop Waller from getting the possession. But he looked great. Josh Jacobs looks like a really top player. And
he's Gruden's favorite stuff, isn't it? That he wants a proper bell cow.
Just a great player. And I think the defense, I was really impressed with Jonathan Abrams. Looked like a really a safety that was really disrupting things as a Jamal Adams kind of type of player who's kind of
he was good.
He kind of not the same
Luckily,
Jamal Adams.
Escaped from that injury. Like we saw that crash towards that television. That was scary.
Was nasty, wasn't it? I mean, he was knocked out completely. He was just laid out on the floor, and you're thinking, "Oh, this looks really bad." But thankfully, him and it was also the other guy, the rookie cornerback. I forgot his name now. The one they picked in the first round. He also got on the same play. He actually got tangled in the cable by the thing. I was like almost took out 2 Raiders in one that one camera unit took out almost 2 Raiders in one go, but thankfully they came back and they had a really good game. So I think going forward, the Raiders could be a team that we're looking forward as a really frisky team that could get into the wild card place and kind of be that second team in the AFC West. But with that, I think we'll go to the teams. Oh no, we've got my disappointment team.
Yeah,
can't forget, and this is the one we're looking at.
This is the one we had to talk about.
This is probably the game of the week in terms of like what's happened from a crazy angle, right? My team of the week, the disappointment is the Falcons. Of course, they drop that massive lead they had. Obviously, famous for dropping the lead against the Patriots in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. But
28-3, right?
Yeah, that was 28-3.
This week?
They were winning 20-0, right? Or 20? They were winning 20-0.
20-0,
and then 29-10. They were winning as well,
yeah.
And they were, and they just allowed the Cowboys offense to come back in it with all that ability they have.
That's not even the worst part. The worst part was the onside kick.
Well, of course, and we'll get to that. First of all, you've got to allow the team to get to that point, right? And they did. And then the onside kick. All right. The onside kick. So Greg Zuerlein, it was a great kick. It was a really well, done.
I wouldn't say it's a great kick.
No, but it was exactly what you wanted it to do. It basically went 11 yards, basically. The kick went 11 yards, which basically completely bamboozled the... I don't know what if it was...
Situational football.
But was it the coaching? Was it coaching?
Apparently they know the rules. Apparently they know they can pick it up before the 10 yards. But it didn't look like none of them know.
So they froze because they thought they couldn't.
There was 6 of them.
I think that they thought that the kick wasn't going to even make 10 yards because it looked like actually...
It didn't matter. They don't need to make 10 yards.
It doesn't matter. They just have to jump on it.
I know they don't need to know that, but it's kind of one of those weird things where...
It's poor coaching. Yeah. It's poor coaching.
Like, it's just not...
First and foremost, it's poor coaching because in that situation, as a coach, you need to make sure that your players are ready for anything that happens on that field.
Yeah.
And in that situation, I just don't... It's just poor coaching. How does there's 6 players around that ball and not one of them knew I could just jump on the ball and that's game over. there's six players. The coaches did not coach any of the players because it's pretty clear that if there's six players that ain't jumping on that ball, something did not get relayed to them from the coaching staff, and that is on the coach. Well, the coach is I think they had a new special teams coach, didn't they?
Right. Okay, that's not a good start. That's like you get these moments to show what you can do as a special teams coach, and that's one of them. You just got to do your job.
Poor situational coaching.
Yeah.
In that instance, like not even like before they kick this onside kick, you just like you do know you can just jump on the ball if it's like short. You can touch the ball. Not they literally.
I just think
it was like a hot potato. They did not want to touch it at all.
I think it was just a situation where the moment got the best of them in terms of it's the situation, the moment where the comeback or that was coming, with Dak, bringing them back into the game. I think that at that moment they just kind of like froze in what they did. They just didn't. There was a moment of indecision, and then on the kicking team, obviously,
do you think it was the pressure that?
I think it's one of those things where you kind of like you kind of react slowly when something happens, and you almost go out of yourself.
Your mind just went blank.
Your mind goes out of itself. Like you kind of get a bit like bamboozled into what you're in terms of what you need to do, and yet obviously the Cowboys are doing exactly because the Cowboys, it's very easy for them. They've got to wait for it to cross that line, and then they can basically jump on it. So they're kind of prepped for what they do. They know what kind of kick that Zerline's going to do and what the plan is. Like they've practiced that's going to be the style of onside kick they're going to do. So they expect it to be a low kick, because some people have obviously done like a bouncing kick or there's different ways of trying to do an onside kick, right? But they were prepped for what was going to come off from the kick from the leg of Zerline, and so they were ready for it, and that's what happens. And you just got to be better when you're as the Falcons. But they look, like I say, going offensively. Of course, Calvin Ridley. Like this is why it's disappointing, because offensively, Calvin Ridley, I think he's starting to take over as the main guy for and that's saying something with Julio being such an alpha there. But I think
because Julio's just getting double teamed every play.
Yeah, but I still think there's opportunities when Julio can he's not that he had that drop pass from Russell Gage, right? Yeah. So there's opportunities that he's not taking, and Calvin Ridley is showing what he can do. So I think they're going to beat teams when they face teams who can't really put up many points, then they'll be able to outlast them. But the defense looks terrible.
But how long do you last as a head coach?
With Dan Quinn being a defensive head coach, when the defense is holding you back, then you go, well, what are you the coach for? And especially as a head coach, you've got to take responsibility for what they happen on the special teams as well. Then overall, it's not looking good. Again, it's not been a good week again for the trio of Gase. Was it Gase, Patricia, and Dan Quinn? Like the three of them are still racing to be the first to be let go at this point, So I think Dan Quinn, it's just disappointing that you weren't able to wrap up and get the win against the Cowboys when you had that big of a lead after they made that many mistakes early on.
Inexcusable.
But anyway, I think with that we'll move on to the teams of the week and get away from the disappointment. And Alex, what's your team of the week?
My team of the week is the Baltimore Ravens. Complete and utter dominance on all three sides of the ball.
Yeah, they look really good.
I don't
even know what else I can say. They just look so good.
They are who they are from last year, solid, right?
Yeah, I think they're better on defense this year as well.
Yeah, Calais Campbell again is like they pick those guys who are just perfect for what they need and slot them in, and it's such a great operation, organization in terms of from the coaching to the front office to everything. It just works so well, and they always and now with Lamar taking them to the next level, they're just so dominant. They've always been consistently good, but Lamar and the way that they attack teams now, it just takes another level. And J.K. Dobbins and Mark Ingram are a really good 1-2 punch. Even though you don't know which one's going to be, they both do a really good job with that. And I just think overall,
so far they've stopped the biggest weakness last year was letting many big run plays. Yeah, that's been stopped. I mean, they look really good right now.
Marcus Peters looks good as well.
Yeah, that was a great pick. That was an incredible pick from Watson's Friday. It was like that diving interception was great. So yeah, I mean Peters is I mean, they brought him in for a reason, right? Peters was always good. He had obviously issues maybe off the field a little bit in terms of in the locker room, kind of.
He completely shut down Odell Beckham last week as well.
Yeah, I think he's one of the better cornerbacks for sure. And I think everyone talked about the Jalen Ramsey trade, but I think the Ravens trading for Russell Peters was also.
Mm-hmm. They didn't give up much for him as well.
Not Russell Peters.
No.
But Marcus Peters, not Russell Peters. Russell Peters.
They didn't give out that much. I think it's only what third rounder or something like that.
Was it? I can't remember the compensation for that. Obviously, the Ramsey one's so no legit in terms of those multiple firsts. But if you think about it, like, what would you rather give up? For a cornerback, I think the compensation was less, and he's again looking really good. And they just overall, it's just such a well-run team. A consistent team and a team that can beat anybody just because
it looks like they got better losing Al Thomas as well. I mean, we'll find out next week if they really miss him during the squeaky bum times against
the Chiefs.
Against the Chiefs, but they look really good.
That's gonna be a great game.
They've just totally dominated the Texans and the Browns last week.
Yeah, and with the Texans, we talk about the Texans. I mean, they obviously missing. They're missing.
They really do miss Hopkins,
and
more and more.
You see what Deshaun Watson's trying to do. So he does some great stuff individually, but you just can't. You limit him with the options he's got.
Yeah.
It limits him. Like the line is still an issue.
The line's a big issue.
Yeah,
against the Ravens, David Johnson only got 34 yards on 11 carries.
Yeah.
Not good enough.
No, and then that's what I'm talking about. Is like. David Johnson will have decent days where he puts up some, but overall on a kind of week to week basis, the trade is just overall is not worked out, but it's just what it is, and the thing is it's a trade.
It's easy to say that though. I would say it's easy. It's quite easy to say that because you never know. Like even if DeAndre Hopkins was on that Texans team yesterday.
I just think
that when you he might have been shut out as well. Do you know? So because this Ravens defense
well, he might get shut out. He might get shut out, but then he'll let other players that will open up.
Yeah, it opens it up for Will Fuller, and if they add Brandon Cooks to that with Hopkins still there, and then your running back is like just a serviceable guy. I think you could be a lot more better off with
Freeman in there or
because Watson is the key to winning, right? And you need to make him better. Now the running back situation helps, but the way that they run the ball, I think they could manage with, like they said last year when they had Carlos Hyde. I just think that they're just missing that. Like if you look at what they're supposed to be win now, right? They traded for Tunsil, massive amount of capital, massive deal,
contract,
and yet if you said we're going to trade Hopkins away and get some assets and like what any team does when they trade a big player, like the Jags did with Ramsey or the Jets did with Jamal Adams, you go, okay, we're going to trade our best player, but we get all the stuff, we are rebuilding. They're not. They're in the playoffs. They were, they traded for Tunsil, gave them a big deal. They're in the kind of window that they created, and
it's a win now. They've created a win now.
They've destroyed their own window. I mean, they're borderline. I mean. Like disappointment team, right? Like in terms of we talk about disappointment teams, that they could easily be in that category as well. Of like,
but they can look in a few weeks' time. They could easily be one of the contenders again. Like they've probably had the hardest start to a season.
Yeah. I think it's a poor trade. If you look back onto it now, it's every week as it goes by, it looks worse and worse.
Yeah.
But the trade deal.
Oh, we've got Alex back now.
Alex back.
Oh, hi.
I don't know what happened.
I don't know what happened. It didn't even make a noise on my headset or my mic, so I'm not quite sure.
Right.
But it looks like it could easily look like they do look like a contender in a few weeks' time anyway, because they've had the worst. They've probably had like the hardest start to a season any team can have.
Yeah. I mean, I think that we'll see what the Texans are once they get out of this 3-game start. We'll see what they're made of when they hopefully the schedule eases up for them a bit and we move on. But with that said, Henry, what's your team of the week?
I don't think Alex will like this, but I think Seahawks is the team of the week for me. That game was when we love to have that Sunday night football every week.
It was a really good game.
It was such a good game, and then seeing Metcalf across that made that run across Gilmore for that touchdown.
Yeah.
You think you thought that was a blown coverage, didn't you?
I think so.
Your sake.
I think our safety was meant to provide some coverage, but I'm not quite sure. But
how did this guy fall to second round? Where this every down like wide receiver that's so physical, like dominant.
It's because it was his ability to come out of his breaks and redirect his body, because he's so
good. Like we looked at him. He was seen as he should have been a top 10 when coming out, but then he just kept dropping. No one took a chance.
Yeah, it's because it's legit because he didn't look quite fast coming out of his breaks, if that makes sense.
Does that look like it now?
I mean, most of his receptions are like go routes or like anyway. So what the Seahawks do is they scheme him open, and what they did against the Patriots, I have to admit, who's their offensive coordinator? Because
Brian Schottenheimer.
He called a perfect game against the Patriots on Sunday. Like the way they were able to confuse the defense with some of their schemes, like having what's his name? They had one of their wide receivers look right behind their running back, and it just confused our defense. And then from there they scored a touchdown. They were able to the way they were able to scheme open their players for all their touchdowns. Like if you watch again the replays of their touchdowns, the way they schemed them open, I was very impressed with all the calls that they made. Like it was a very well called game from their offensive coordinator.
The Seahawks, again, they were my team of the week last week. And yeah, they just overall, I know they lost some big players on the defensive side, and that's going to hurt. But attacking, Russell
Wilson.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't even have that many throws. He had 28 throws in the game, so he didn't actually. He's very efficient. That's the thing. He's just very efficient. He didn't go crazy with the throws, but it's just so dynamic with Lockett. He has such a great relationship with Metcalf. He's a beast down the field. He has a really good relationship with David Moore as the third receiver. I think Chris Carson.
Throw to him.
Exactly. Chris Carson looks really good at the backfield again. I just think overall the Seahawks look like a great team, and I know Jamal Adams got picked off a little bit by Edelman on some plays, but in the box the guy is, and you can debate whether trading for a in the box safety if he struggles that much against the pass, and I don't think so. I don't think that he will struggle against most teams in the pass game, because he did a really good job overall in his career against the pass, and kind of may not as many be interceptions, but overall he does good at defending the pass. But in the box, the guy is. He's just incredible at kind of chasing the plays, and he can come off the far side of the line and chase people around the line. He's just got so much speed.
Yeah, they used him quite differently on Sunday as well.
Yeah,
they lined him up like, so they didn't line him up close to the box. What they did is they lined him up quite far, so that what they did was they hid him away, so that when Cam Newton was looking at the field before he threw it, he couldn't see where Jamal Adams was coming from, and nor could the running back. Because what everyone was doing was they'll just get the running back and block him.
Yeah.
But by hiding him, they were able to get Jamal Adams to blitz through that gap, and it was really, really well thought out. I thought
he is a kind of a defensive playmaker. Like you can put him in different places and he'll make those plays. And again, like I said, against most weeks he'll be fine at pass coverage as well. So I think the Seahawks again, with the 49ers with injuries, and I think the Seahawks are going to be up there. I think the Rams look good as well, and I think the Cardinals are interesting. So it's going to be another.
How
good
did
division.
Cam Newton look though?
But yeah, Cam. Yeah, so going to the Patriots. I mean, Cam. It's all going through Cam again. I mean, is he going to end up with 32 rushing touchdowns? He's on a pace for that. It's crazy. But like,
what is crazy was it's back to the Super Bowl, isn't it?
When, literally one
the
final
pick.
I didn't mind losing that game. I didn't even mind the call either. I just thought maybe Cam could have, instead of doing his actual assignment, just gone off a little bit off script and just try to run around the play instead.
Yeah, he could have.
But apart from that,
yeah, they're saying that if he went, they're looking at. If you look at it, if he made the wrong call on that particular one, but maybe he could have gone the outside and just waltzed in. But it is what it is. But they look interesting, and he's playing well with, and it's
That's
not
all
just
I can
running the
ask
game.
for.
He's getting the most out of what limited options on paper. You know, your Demir Birds and your Jacoby. Is it Jacoby? What's his name again? Alex? Jacoby Myers, and obviously Edelman. He's massive game from Edelman, 179 yards.
Yeah.
Like, I think he's getting the most out of it, and that's what you can hope with Cam, is that he can actually be a decent passer.
He did throw that one pick, and I was scratching my head a bit because when I was watching the game, I was watching the game with Henry and Dunbar. He almost picked it in the first half.
Yeah.
And it was the same concept as well, and I was just like, and I told Henry, I think just once in a while with Bird, we have to go deep just so that Dunbar is on his heels a bit, and I don't think we ever. I'm not sure if we ever did run him deep, but Dunbar just knew when we was going to go for that route again, and then he just picked it the second time, and that's what really annoyed me was. We saw it coming. He did almost pick it the first time, and then what I didn't get was why did we try it again? But it is what it is.
I think overall you guys are going to be improving each week. I think, and if you
look good,
I think you look good. You've got two teams. There's two teams that go into the playoffs easily, if not division winners.
It felt
definitely
like a playoff game, didn't it?
It did. It was, and then it was always great games. But with that said, I think we'll go to my team. Of the week, which is the Rams, in the same division as the Seahawks. I think the Rams, in 2 weeks now, the Rams have looked really, really solid. Their offense is dynamic again. It's fun. Got big plays happening, interesting stuff happening. I think obviously the Eagles are struggling right now, but they're not, they're not without talent, and the Rams made them, dominated the game. They defensively, they look really solid, and just on the attack, you trust Sean McVay is doing a great job to kind of get the most out of that team with all the players. With Goff, obviously he's not going to be a top player, like a Watson, Mahomes, Lamar, but in the system,
you could put Kyler Murray in that.
Yeah, exactly. You could put Kyler Murray in. There's maybe some, maybe Josh Allen. But in terms of the players who I guess can do, physically something incredible, right? I guess you put those five guys there. But what Goff can do is he can run an offense that's, if it is a well designed offense where things are happening and timing, everything's on time. Goff can look really good, and he's very clean. He can be very clean. Obviously, if things go
efficient, isn't he?
He's very efficient, very clean. Obviously, if things go off script, that's when he struggles a bit. But when you've got a person like McVay calling the plays and run the offense, a Goff can be successful. And it's just the thing is, you're paying him so much money that you want him to be more than a high level game manager effectively. But overall, the Rams, they look like a really fun team, a really well coached team. And
it's as well coached. It's Sean McVay, isn't it? They've gone 27-0 when they've led in half time.
Yeah,
under Sean McVay, and you compare that to teams like Lions and
Falcons and stuff. Yeah,
yeah.
I know. They're a very efficient team, very well run team, and like I said,
their offense looks like it's.
But the offense is back to being fun again. Like last year, it just looked like it was sluggish. It wasn't working well. Like it was just, but it's back. It's looking dynamic. It's looking efficient. And I think they're going to be a hard team for anybody to face on a week-to-week basis. And they're going to rack up the wins and be in the conversation for the division title, if not easily into the playoff picture, So definitely.
I think it's more down to them playing with more speed, more up-tempo this year compared to last year.
Absolutely.
There's more misdirections and trying to confuse the defense.
No, and I think that, I think that the tight end being more involved in the game is something that he kind of came up with at the end. Yeah, Higbee with the 3 touchdowns was massive, and I think that
Higbee's changed the dynamic of their offense.
I think it's not necessarily just Higbee in himself. It's more is how McVay is using the offense, he switched to the 12 personnel, using being more reliant on tight ends to get things done. And I think obviously that was like a mid-season change last year, and it worked, but it wasn't perfect. I think this is like refined version of what he did. He kind of worked. He go, this works, and now over the off season, I'm going to like refine it to make it work even better. And that's what we're seeing right now. They're just a really clean, well-coached team, and I think this year that's going to be the difference between, you look at other, the games we talked about, you're looking at the Saints versus the Rams situation where, normally you would say the Saints are more talented overall, especially if Michael Thomas is back. But if the Rams are being better coached, I think this year with the injuries and things that can happen, all the things that are thrown in the air, I think teams that are better coached, the ones that have the best coaches are going to have the biggest advantage this year. I think it's going to be the biggest.
I think health is more.
Well, health is obviously, but health is a luck thing, right? Health is it's like who can stay healthy. But I mean, a lot of these injuries are freak injuries. A guy rolls around and his knee goes out, but I think that's
it's a closer game. It's a closer game if the Eagles are healthy.
So if certain people go out and they massive key players for certain teams, they're going to struggle to cope with that, but. If you take the injuries out of it because it's so random, you say because of the injuries being a factor for a lot of teams and all these different things going on, coaching and the teams that have the best coaches are going to be the more successful teams this year, as well as obviously the talent. But I think that coaching difference on what's on the sidelines.
Coaching has to be though, isn't it? When was the last time a Super Bowl winner was we have a Super Bowl winner with a really poor set of coaches?
I know what you're saying, but I think that. The talent, I think that there's going to be a bigger, it's always an emphasis. So if you have a good coach, you're going to have a better chance. But I think that it's going to be even more emphasized this year. That's all. I think it's just going to be a higher percentage of wins on a certain day where, like I said, like what we saw on Monday Night Football, where the better coach team, the more efficient team, but maybe the less talented team, even without Michael Thomas, the Raiders end up winning.
You can't say. Do you honestly say that John Gruden is better coached than Sean?
No,
Sean Payton.
The team was better coached for the game. Like, forget what you think about the coach as a concept of who the coach is. You think on a game to game basis, who does the best?
I don't know. It's mainly.
I'm saying when the talent is close. With, really. If the talent is massive, then obviously that's going to tell. But on the games where the talent isn't huge, but there's maybe
Michael Thomas is a big talent. It's a massive talent. That's the thing.
I don't know, but I just think that the Rams again.
If the Rams were to lose Aaron Donald, it's a massive loss.
But anybody who loses a player that big, like the 49ers did with Bosa.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to say.
I almost made the 49ers...
Injuries are going to play a big part this season.
I almost made the 49ers my team of the week because of who they lost. But then the fact that they beat the Jets, it's like, okay, you can't... The fact that they beat anybody, it would have been great, except for it being the Jets, because the Jets are so terrible. But they were really.
We're not going to go to the Jets. But
I'm saying in terms of injuries, like you talk about Aaron, we're talking about kind of coaching, and Shanahan did a great job with coaching. I think coaching is going to be a big difference in terms of winning those games and seeing those games out when injuries happen. So we're going to look ahead to the week 3 games coming up. But first, we're just going to have a quick moment to talk about that we have a YouTube channel that is the audio version of the visual version of our podcast. And you can find us on the Don't Fumble podcast on YouTube. We're also on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at Don't Fumble Pod. And part of our Instagram content is actually our predictions, which we did. So this week, we... it was pretty good. It was a pretty good week for us. I went 15 out of 16 with the Saints costing me a perfect score. That last one, I'm sure that's the most important thing coming out of that game. I lost that. Alex, you got 14, so you also got done up with that last game. But you also went with you also went with the Patriots. You went with your homer pick with the Patriots to beat the Seahawks, and that cost you on that. Henry, you got 12 this week.
I tried to go for a bit more surprising
results. You did go against the grain a little bit. You kind of went with the Bengals and you went with the Vikings, as well as the obviously the Saints as well. So, but otherwise, not too bad. A week, and so if we on Instagram, we'll be posting those before the Thursday night games. We'll get our predictions out for the week ahead. So you can look out for that. Okay, so we're going to look forward to the week 3 action in the NFL this weekend. Some really, really good games. It's going to be a great weekend of action. What games are you looking forward to? Alex, what's your... If you had to choose the main game, which one are you choosing?
Monday Night Football, no-brainer. Chiefs at the Ravens. I don't even have to say anything else. I think this game sells itself. The Ravens are my team of the week for this week, and it'll be a really interesting matchup to see how they do against the Chiefs and Pat Mahomes and
Lamar,
so,
Pat. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the only thing I would say is that I wish it was a bit later in the season. It's not. I mean, you could say, but then there could be a massive injury that changes it. But also, it was like, when you look forward to a game,
they could possibly face each other in the playoffs anyway.
I know, but it's like one of those ones when we had the Rams, Rams Chiefs.
Yeah.
It was like week 10, like they were like both undefeated. It was like this incredible, and then the game was just builds up to a bit more. But still, no doubt, it's gonna be a really good game. Henry, what's your
you'll see who potentially deciding who's the AFC, right? Who's hosting?
I think this puts a flag definitely in terms of obviously there's a long way to go in terms of they could slip up somewhere, but it does indicate.
For me, I think the game I'm look for the most more than this game will be the Saints and Packers.
Oh well, of course you will with the Packers, but it is going to be can the Saints?
Was it Sunday Night Football, right?
Yeah, Sunday night football.
Yeah.
Can Saints
Packers going to the Saints?
Yeah. Can Saints kind of turn over?
Saints got a lot to prove now.
Disappointing loss to the Raiders. And the Packers coming in looking really good.
43 points. 43 points against the Vikings. 42.
They're going to be in a shootout with the Packers, and the offense of the Saints need to answer the call, because otherwise they will get blown out, I think.
Yeah,
I hope they will, but I don't want to shoot out.
The way Rodgers is playing, it might be a tough game for the Saints. So
I think they need Michael Thomas back.
Yeah,
they need.
They're definitely missing him. Definitely missing him. But the Packers are, they had that 13-3 record last year. And you thought maybe it's a soft. That they didn't look like a natural 3-13 team, but they look like they've just improved. They look like an even better team, and they look legit. Like even if they don't get to 13 wins, they just look like a really good team. And
all these talks of us needing wide receivers.
Well, I think what it was. I think it's really Rodgers wasn't elevating the talent around him, and I think this is they've lit a fire under him, and he's just like, let's go. And let me show them what I can do.
It's a lot more balanced attack as well. That's something.
Yeah. Absolutely.
What about you then, Adres? What teams?
Yeah, I mean the game I'm looking for. There's really, there's a lot of other good games. It's a really stacked week. I think the one I'm interested in is it involves two of my teams from 3 and out, which is the Bills and the Rams. The Rams have looked really good, really efficient. Their offense is looking fun again. It's just a really, really solid team. The Bills, again, another solid team. They've not put away poor teams like the Jets and Dolphins. They haven't handled them as well as they. But Josh Allen has looked really good. And let's see what they do against a really going to complete a pretty complete team. That's what I'm looking forward to.
It's a litmus test for the Bills, really.
It is interesting. It's the first test to see. Okay, how legit is how legit are the Bills overall, and how good is Josh Allen in his first test? I think he's looking amazing, of course, but let's see where he goes against a decent team with Aaron Donald chasing after him and Jalen Ramsey kind of maybe locking down Diggs and seeing where else he has to go. But Alex, what's another game you're looking forward to?
My Patriots are hosting the Raiders next week, so that'll be a very interesting game.
It must be fun to look forward to your team's games.
Oh, of course, man.
I
mean, it's just so difficult.
The Raiders are 2-0 at the moment, and their offense is looking great. So I think the Patriots Raiders game is going to be a really fun game to watch.
I think it's another game of two really well coached teams. The Raiders looked very, very good on
let's put a damp on the Raiders for a time being. Okay?
I do put a damper, but I would say
don't go overhype them. That's the first time
their offense does look great though.
No, it's good.
From what
but
we're seeing.
Listen to this first. That Saints was the first time they beaten a team that went more than 0.5. Sorry. Of the win percentage. So you're looking at
the Raiders
on the
are
John
able
Gruden
to do whatever they want.
No, but that's the first time. Okay, don't overhype it after one game. Okay, that was the first time they went in to beat a team that's in a like a positive record.
I would just say that the Raiders look like the clear second team in the AFC West, and they're probably going to be challenging for that. They just look like they're good they're good all round. I'm saying they're not fun to watch. Yeah, they're not. I think they're really well rounded as well, in a kind of maybe not as high as some of the other teams who are also well rounded, but they're not. There's no kind of peaks and troughs in their talent. They kind of they spread that talent. I mean, Jonathan Abrams looked really good. It
could be like a high scoring game, just like
you got to learn how to cover that tight end.
Yeah, Waller was just incredible. It was just unstoppable, wasn't he, against the Saints? And I mean,
he looks like a bigger and faster.
I would trust Bill B to sort that out, and to kind of. Yeah. But then you've got other weapons. They've got those two rookies, Brian Edwards and Henry Ruggs. They look really like a good combo there, and they look so young. You look at their team, you're like, you got Josh Jacobs second year and the two rookie wide receivers. They're a young team, but yet they're efficient. So I mean, if they're this good at this age, then in a couple of years' time, they could be a real superpower. Henry, what's another game you're looking forward to this weekend?
Seahawks and Cowboys.
That's a really good one. Really
that's
fun.
Gonna be fun.
Imagine the Cowboys going to Seahawks 0-2 if they went there. They're lucky they got that win, but now they going to Seahawks now. That should be a really fun game.
That will be a good shootout.
That'll be a shootout.
This weekend, it's unbelievable.
The Seahawks are banged up now, so.
I just can't see myself watching Colts Jets over Seahawks Cowboys. I religiously watch the Jets, right? No matter what situation.
No, don't. You got 25 minutes. You got 20 minutes. They start at 9:05, right? Yeah. 20 minutes and switch on to Cowboys.
Yeah, 20. Yeah, it'll be 21-0 after 20 minutes of real game time. Yeah, like halfway through the first quarter, we're already down 21-0, and then I can switch over. Yeah.
You're actually gonna miss Russell Wilson.
You
really want to miss out Russell Wilson putting on a clinic again.
It is a testament. I think I will see how the Jets Colts starts, but I mean, I will be bailing on that game. I think for the first time, like if it's the same old rubbish with Gase and stuff, there's no way I'm not watching the Seahawks and Cowboys, because it's just like, it's so depressing to see what Gase is doing to that team, and then you go, why would I stick with this team when the Cowboys and Seahawks are facing each other like that? Watch good football. Watch good teams.
I'm going to force him to watch the Seahawks and Cowboys game. Don't worry.
Oh man!
Apart from that game, what other games do you want to? What's the final game you want?
I think there are some other good games, but the game that stinks out to me, another one is the Texans going to Pittsburgh to play the Steelers. I think the Texans have had a rough start with the Chiefs and the Ravens, and then they get the Steelers. It's like ridiculous. But I thought Watson, for as bad as I think they're lacking. Obviously, like we talked about, they're lacking Hopkins. It's so obvious now where you're looking where because Deshaun Watson. I mean, I thought he looked pretty good. He looked as good as he's going to look, but I just think, when you strip talent from any player, they're going to feel the effects. And I think it was with the amount of kind of targets and receptions that Hopkins got, and was they based the whole offense around him almost. They're really struggling for identity to kind of work that around him.
Well, Fuller's not number one.
No, he's not. And then going to the Steelers, that defense again looks incredible. Big Ben, Chase Claypool with the rookie on top of Juju and Deontay Johnson. They just
can they bring him down though? Can they bring down Watson though? Did you see how he escaped that? That
escape. I know it was the incompletion, right? You're talking about the one.
Yeah, it was incompletion, but he gets.
It was so incredible that how he kind of ducked and weaved and all that. He is really good at that. And normally, what would happen at the end of that? It was that Hopkins would find a way to get open, and he would just on the kind of broken play, they would still find somewhere, and that's the kind of situation. Not every single time, but I saw that enough times where he would, where Watson would kind of do some Houdini stuff, and then he would break free, and then Hopkins would see it, and
he'll come back. He'll come back and help him out. Yeah,
it's just it's a really big game for the Texans. They could be 0-3 just like that. So
and it's very simple. It's not even
Texans, you need to.
I mean, I still pick the Steelers because the Steelers again are so good on defense. The offense is looking really good. I thought James Conner he got decent stats, but he didn't look very he was okay. And we'll see what they do. But in terms of not being too one-dimensional, and if he can stay healthy, there's always that risk with James Conner. But overall, I think the Steelers are going to be a top team this season. And so I think we've got some really good games this weekend. But
it'll be one of the best weeks in this season, I think.
Absolutely, I think it is definitely one of the best weeks on paper. Hopefully they can stay healthy and we don't get the big injuries. But I think that's going to wrap it up for the show this week. Hope you've had fun. Henry, Alex, enjoy the weekend of action, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week, guys. Peace.
See you next week, guys.